Now, there's been consistent concern in recent times about the steady rise in the cost of conducting elections in Nigeria, despite the steady decline in voter turnout. And even as citizens continue to lose interest in not only the electoral process, but in governance. The taxpayers are also used to run elections, but citizens continue to show little or no interest in the process that will produce leaders who will make decisions that will govern them in the next 4 years.
Now that takes us to voter apathy. A lot of people have been clamoring that youth should take, should get their PVC, but there have also been concerns of what youths are going to do with that PVC. And I'm sure that our guest here, who has spoken a lot about youths, especially concerning what they do with their PVCs regarding their PVC. We have the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, Honorable Shehu Gabam. You're welcome.
A great pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right. Social apathy, voter apathy. Do you think that can be addressed in Nigeria?
Certainly, there's no doubt about it. A lot of factors are responsible for it, including weaponizing of poverty. Is one of the fundamental factors that drives people into selling their franchise. And other political factors, political leaders, and so on and so forth. It wasn't too long ago we started embarking or drafting youth into this issue of selling their PVC. The parties that in power are responsible for some of these mess, simply because they want to retain power at all costs. And because their popularity has been nosediving for quite a very long time, they started regenerating idea how to compromise electoral process by trying to engage the youth to sell their vote for whatever reason. Simply because, like I've mentioned, there's a large-scale poverty that have pervaded our environment on a very large scale. Most of the youths have not evaluated why they are casting their vote and why really do they need to queue for a very long time to cast their vote. What is the value added for them to cast their vote, economically, politically, socially, and for their own environment to be quite justifiable in terms of making their demand very critical, very important, and they can have a voice to talk about it. Because once you sell your voice, it's like you have sold the voice of your right to talk about issues. And more fundamentally, is we do not do anything urgently about it. Very soon people will stop campaigning. People will start accumulating wealth at all costs. And they will use on the day of election to just buy votes. And that will definitely crash our democracy. That is the greatest danger the whole nation is facing today. This vote buying is very deadly, it's very terrible. Take away morality, decency. It take away, that believing that the system can stand on its own, devoid of bad influences and so on and so forth. So a system we have gone through of recent, and is very alarming, especially what we saw in Ekiti. You see very young girls that are working, that are somehow models, being given money and they're pledging the money all over the place, being recorded all over. So the use of money in Ekiti was a very terrible experience we have had. We thought that the younger generations, given the number of agitation they have carried out, including the answers for bad governance and so on and so forth, I've never thought that I will see a situation where young people are queuing to collect money to sell their vote. That was very alarming to me, very disturbing.
All right, you talked about using poverty as a tool. Right now, the poverty rate has increased much more than before.
Absolutely.
So, apart from the poverty, we also have people who, vote along ethnic or tribal or party line. Which way forward? What do you think would,
All those ones, politicians are responsible. Government is also responsible. The moment you have a defined principle, it beholds on the principal actors to ensure sanity is being maintained. In any society where you see people deviating deliberately without thinking of the consequences, it's simply because there's a compromise within the system. Politicians can compromise any system to satisfy their interests, but the institutions that are responsible for stopping that compromise and for creating deterrence are also very weak. So in this case, you'll find out that if I lost the election, or I'm determined to influence election for someone who is my ethnic base or my tribal base or my regional base, I will go back and start inciting people along those lines, but simply because there's no deterrence. Because incitement linked to violence. So if there's no deterrence, you cannot stop it. People will start doing things along ethnic or regional lines and so on and so forth. This is very dangerous as well. So we have witnessed this for a very long time ago, and the government does nothing about it. The political parties are helpless at a point. So it is something that both of us as a media, as politicians, as security agencies, we must look at it that what is our primary responsibility? Our primary responsibility is to unite this country and keep this country together. So any coloration of ethnic or regional thing, we must do as much as possible to take it away, because the consequences is so heavy that nobody can avoid it at the end of the day. So we are already engulfed in a very terrible political, chaotic environment, very fragile, very ethnically divided, regionally and religiously divided. These are all because the politicians are trying to, by all means, take advantage of the situation that we are in. And also, don't forget the fact that I have mentioned the weaponization of the poverty. When somebody is stranded, somebody has no food to eat, if you give him just 1,000, he can go and commit murder and nothing happens. That is the level that we are. So we are in a very anarchic situation in terms of these factors that you have mentioned, and I don't know how it can easily fizzle out unless the deliberate attempts to take control of the situation and show capacity for deterrence for those who continue to go along this one, because the danger is that the country will find it very difficult to be on its feet.
Okay, so over time they've been talking about cost and cost of governance, and we notice that it's always a charade. This government will come and they will say they want to cut governance, cost and governance, and before you know, there will not be continuity. You know, what do you think the government can do going forward to put like a template where there will be a source of continuity?
It's simply because we don't have a priority. When a nation has no priority, such things are bound to happen. If you look at all other places, you will see government abandoned projects virtually all over the country, in all the states of the federation, including state projects, where any governor that comes in will abandon those projects, will start initiating his own project, as if the money belongs to him, not belongs to the state. So the same thing is happening at the national level. Projects that are viable, that are people-oriented projects, billions are being sucked into the project for the benefit of Nigerians. At the end of the day, if you conclude that project, a lot of people will get employed, a lot of activities will happen. But because of inferiority complex, because of that absence of nationalism, and because of this massive corruption that have pervaded the executive, because primarily they are responsible for these contracts, civil servants, and so on and so forth. They continue to budget money on a very large scale on a particular project. At the end of the day, none of it will happen, or they will just start a bit of it and take away the whole of money. And so if you want to deal with issue of continuity, there must be a defined policy, either by National Assembly or a sponsor bill by a serious president headed by executive, so that it will be part of the process of a country that once you came on board or you are elected, you have to carry on with the project that your predecessor have left behind. Because it's a government property, it's funded by public funds. There is no reason to abandon that project and start initiating another elephant project that you cannot finish even 4 years in office or 8 years in office, because of factors of corruption, interest service, and so on and so forth. So many factors are responsible. And again, at the same time, when there is lack of deterrence, when institutions that are supposed to probe such kind of things are not doing it related to anybody that is in charge of power at that particular time, This sort of things will still continue to happen. The whole aim is to siphon the resources away and leave the abandoned property the way it is. Of recent, we have seen some of them, this government have made an attempt to continue with some of the projects left behind by Jonathan, like the railway project. Yes, there was an attempt to continue with it, so, but it's not going far. I think the only one that is moving is Kaduna, Lagos train system, but the Kaduna one is stalled because of insecurity and so on and so forth. So many of them, they are viable projects that can move the country forward. But again, like I said, being in power, have bad influences around the power, lack of good advisors, that at the end of the day, whoever complete that project would take credit for completing the project. It doesn't matter who initiated it, but who completed the project normally take the credit for it. But for the purpose of whatever material thing that is associated to it, both the initiator and those who are supposed to complete it would take a position of diverting the entire process into something new and condemning what had been done before, where billions or trillions have been injected. Take the Trade Center. You can imagine how many years we'll be building the Trade Center. What excuse do we have? This is a global project that have impact, that will have direct impact on Nigeria. So there are a lot of things that are going very wrong, but we'll keep on talking on it.
Now, for some experts, technology may not be a silver bullet that solves all election and governance-related challenges, but it is about better access to information, usage and dissemination, while putting the right information into the right hands at the right time for a better decision. Now, the national chairman, Social Democratic Party, has hailed technological innovations introduced by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. At the press conference, the national chairman said the present transformation earmarked and embarked upon by INEC herdsmen was capable of giving Nigeria a credible election in 2023. He also disclosed, that is Mr. Gabam, disclosed that the bimodal voter accreditation system had also eliminated bad practices in the process. If we have this clip, let's roll this clip. Okay, while we wait for the video to be played or to come on air, do you think awareness, better awareness, is the way forward? Yes, we have a technological device in place as we speak. Without awareness, without the right information going out to the right space or to the right hands, what we are doing is fruitless. So how much awareness would you advise that stakeholders and indeed INEC should embark upon?
But there are two faces to it. One, INEC itself has a budget for sensitizing people about the new technology. Two, the government have a responsibility, to invest heavily on awareness. Especially, you have agencies that are responsible for creating this awareness, the National Orientation Agency, and so many other agencies, including the NGOs, to ensure that Nigerians are quite informed about how important the system is, how critical the system is to the electoral process, and the kind of standard it will create for the country, and the kind of understanding rate in Nigeria will go through, especially given our history that we have never conducted free and fair election except during the June 12th, where there is some plans of free and fair election, which we have never replicated again. Now, I keep on talking about the transformation in INEC simply because any operational person that have gone through process of election before, the kind of primitive processes you will go through in the physical submission of documents of people who want to contest election is one of the most Herculean tasks, it's one of the most stubborn process, it's one of the most racketeering process parties go through. You go and queue, slip over INEC offices just trying to submit documents. At the end of the day, your document will get missing or mess up. You cannot trace it again. Or parties or individuals who are against a particular person going for such things, they will conspire with some of the INEC officials and take away your documents away. So a lot of things has happened. Now, this system that was introduced by INEC, that is technologically driven, strengthens the institution of our electoral processes. For instance, virtually all that I have submitted to INEC as the chairman of the party, I submitted it through the system. Okay. Every party is being given a portal number. That number will give you access to submit virtually all your documents through your system. You don't need to make any physical contact. And once you submit it, it goes directly to the INEC, to the chairman of INEC DEX, who will then later on, send it to the various departments that are relevant in terms of dealing or taking all positions according to the classification of the processes. Yeah. Now, you find out that I have no business going to INEC once I've complied with the system. And the system have so many provisions that you have to comply with. You have to scan virtually all the documents of the candidate. His CV, his membership card, his passport, his signatures, all the related documents, you must scan them satisfactorily. And then, of course, what INEC did of recent is to eliminate these underage submissions that have created a lot of litigations around INEC. Okay. So once you key in somebody's date of birth, and it happens that his age is not within the bracket INEC is looking for, you will not even see it. It won't even pop up. So the issue of now underage submission is gone. So Professor Mahmoud have done excellently well. The revolution is second to none. Okay. In INEC, it brought stability in INEC. It brought a sense of harmony and assurance that, look, it's likely that we are going to witness free and fair election. There are a lot of factors that are responsible for free and fair election, not just INEC. Okay. Because INEC is not just independent, just like being stated. They are interdependent. There are certain things that are beyond them. If the environment is not conducive to conduct election, there's nothing INEC can do. INEC cannot go to a very chaotic environment and conduct elections. Now, it's a responsibility of the security agencies that are statutorily have that power to make sure there's conducive environment, free of thuggery, free of people, element of disrupting electoral process at the polling unit, and then the politicians themselves to believe and convince that this is a national responsibility. Yeah. We need to build a strong institution that can project Nigeria as a country that have come of age in terms of conducting free and fair election. And the third one also are the low-ranking officials of INEC that traditionally used to collude with other political parties or agents of other parties to think of manipulating the process. But the most important thing is that once you are going to cast your vote, the beavers capturing system are exceptionally excellent. You either being captured by fingerprint or visual capturing. Anything, any one of these that you have not gone through, you are not eligible to cast your vote. Your vote will not count. Okay. And at the end of the day, the number of people that have been accredited per polling unit, are the ones to be declared. If the number of people that have been accredited, that particular unit result is null and void. And the good thing is that the moment you've been accredited by fingerprint or visual capturing, it goes into their system. So you can do nothing about it. And normally, if there's conflict, they will bring it down to reconcile with the manual result that have been counted. So it's two things at a time. The result, the election normally is manually programmed result. Yeah. But the bimodal system, the entire accreditation exercise goes directly into their server. So you can easily look at it, dissect it, and get a clear fact that this is what we have accredited, or this is beyond what we have accredited. What we saw in Ekiti, we saw people snatching ballot boxes, we saw people thumb printing, and so on and so forth. So even if you snatch ballot boxes, it's as good as useless this time around. And that is why 2020 is about surprise, particularly if the youth who have 65 to 70% strength of votes in terms of PVC decided not to sell their vote. They will determine the future of Nigeria. They will determine the president of Nigeria. They will determine who will be a governor, who will be a senator, who will be a House of Reps, who will be in the State Assembly. So it's left for the youth and for all of us to sensitize them on the importance of casting their vote along the line of their conviction, both in their state assembly where they believe that the member will represent them well, the constituency well, in terms of their demand, their situations, their peculiarities, House of Reps, Senate, Governor. Who are they going to vote for that will transform the state, will use the good resources of the state for transformation and other issues? And of course the president, the overall boss. Once the youth made up their mind, this is the person we want to be the president of Nigeria, he will be the president of Nigeria. There's no two ways about it.
All right, you spoke about INEC being an independent, interdependent organization, and you also spoke about the elections taking place in a safe atmosphere. So with the security situation in the country right now, do you see any election holding in all 36 states of the federation?
As it is today, the possibility is very, very rare, because you can only conduct election in an atmosphere of peace, not violent. If you take statistics of the crisis region situation per zones, let me start with the North Central. In the whole North Central states, the only state that you can mark relatively very peaceful is Kwara State. All others are crisis region. Breach of national security. Non-state actors determine what happens in the states. If you take Northeast, you can pick only two states that are relatively peaceful. That is Bauchi and Gombe states. All other states is from one violence, kidnapping, maiming, killings, rapings, ritual things are what is going on. If you take the Southeast, there's virtually no state you can take out. If it's from one sort of crisis, from kidnapping, from maiming, from murder, and all sort of things going on, which is a very homogeneous state. Virtually one people, one culture, one tradition. If you take the Northwest, relatively you can only exclude Kano and Jigawa State. All other states in the Northwest are crisis region, massive insecurity. South is the same thing. Either kidnapping, bunkering, killings, maimings, political rivalry is what is going on. Southwest is full of bubbles. The economic hub of the country, Lagos, is full of from one crisis to the other. They are yet to recover from the NSAS crisis. And you can see recently, because of the political rivalry, one of the special candidates was being attacked, vehicles being destroyed. So this is the level the insecurity is engaging the system. And our security agencies are almost overstretched in terms of deployment. Virtually there is no state in Nigeria that have no military deployment because of this massive scale of insecurity that is ongoing. So how do you conduct election in a state that is crisis region, and you expect to have a very peaceful and conducive environment to conduct that election? You have guns all over the place. People are using guns as will. So it's a very scary thing. For me, it is possible, it is not possible. It is possible if the government took a very decisive, merciless position to ensure that they take away some of these elements that are responsible for this destabilization, create deterrence by prosecuting political elements that are responsible for inciting people, and ensure that the acts of thuggery to disrupt the electoral process are properly being taken care of, and to also establish a kind of election tribunal court, mobile court or something, that you prosecute somebody instantly, you send a clear signal that this is not acceptable. So for the president that have said perpetually, I have lost the count, that he wants to leave a legacy of free and fair election in Nigeria, I'm yet to see one in the states. What happened in Oshun, what happened in Ekiti is a clear example that we are just managing stages. Now, he is on his last feast as the president and commander-in-chief. What I expect by now is that there will be a conducive atmosphere for elections to be conducted nationwide. But if he is going to conduct a crash program and making sure that he creates deterrence efficiently and effectively, it is likely. But for you to expect 100%, it's not there. It's not likely.
Now,
Okay.
you lauded INEC's effort in bringing the bimodal system to place. You've listed poverty as one of the factors affecting voter apathy. We also have scenarios where political parties' candidates fail to deliver dividends of democracy promised to Nigerians or their electorates, and then they come again, so it happens every 4 years, and you expect them to come out. Don't you think this is also an issue?
Well, it's the fault of the voters, because in other civilized societies it doesn't happen. And also it's our responsibility to sensitize citizens or those who participate in voting that next time, whoever you vote for, you must have something to offer you to tell you that I'm going to provide A, B, C, D, E, F. In the absence of providing such things, and then another round of election is around the corner, he's telling you the same story, then it takes some element of insanity for you to vote him back again. We have so many members of the parliament that have not gone back to their constituency. Just like you have ministers that cannot visit their states because of so many reasons. So I'm happy that some kind of transformation is coming in. Some sort of revolution is really engaging the system very heavily. If you look at recently, I'm sure you have the clips in some states, you see how they are beating members of the parliament. They are chasing them away. So it's happening also in the state where they are storming governors, where you see large chunk of state funds are being taken away. Nothing is being done. At the end of the day, they militarize the place during the elections. They kill people. They do all sorts of barbarisms because the security agencies are answerable to the people in government. They are not answerable to the citizens that constitute the large percentage of the society. So these are so many factors that I'm happy from what I'm seeing, the kind of revolt the system is going through, the kind of gang up the youth are going through.
So there's hope.
Because the 70% of the PVC owners are anti-establishment. And that is why you see the intensification of vote buying being programmed on different scale. Some of them, they will buy them in advance. Some of them, they have monitors to ensure that the people voted for the party, and then they will tell them where they will go and collect the money. So the signals are getting out in as much as they are diverting the process. We have the capacity also to dictate that this vote has been sold out. You know, once you napped 1 or 2%, he will tell you that this is what happened. Because as much as people are willing to sell their vote, under very strict interrogation, they will confess how it happens. So we have that intelligence. It's not as if there's zero intelligence how these things are happening. But the shocking thing is that despite the confession and what have you, you find out that the process of prosecution is almost close to 0%. Those that have been arrested in Ekiti, we have not seen any prosecution. You have seen some mothers, you know, flinging money that have been given to them. They are non-faced. What happened to them? Because they compromise the system. An election is a very important exercise. A national holiday has been declared. Both public and private establishments, they have to close down by law. So the government is losing revenue. The private owners are losing revenue for the sake of that election. And yet we compromise it. And yet government is not very decisive about it. So it's difficult for you to define really what is the intention, what do we really want to achieve. And as big as we are as a nation, look at just what happened in Kenya. Look at the leadership example that was demonstrated. It is heart-touching. It is cracking for the opposition to come together and say, look, let's forgive one another in the interest of our country. We need this country to move on. And I think it is a shame, you know, for Nigeria to see this going on in Kenya. And there's no attempt so far for us to emulate such things. It's not a shame to emulate good things. It's a shame to emulate bad things. What happened in Kenya is a model for other countries to copy. Yes, we had a battle, we had a very nasty campaigns, we insulted each other, we abused each other, we take each other credibility to the gutters. But we say, look, we need to apologize on the stage, on the national stage. And look at the ovation that took place. And it's a reference point today. Is it that Nigeria cannot do it? The answer is no. We have more civilized, more exposed people in this country that if they want to do it, it will stabilize the country. The nerves will go down immediately because they have to start with the critical stakeholders that are responsible for creating this crisis all over the country. It has to do with the politicians that are responsible for the marketing, creating religious issues, religious bigots, ethnic bigots that are driving the process. It takes also for the security agencies to understand their services to the citizens of Nigeria. It has nothing to do with people in government, because at a particular time there will be somebody. At the time somebody has to go. At the time somebody has to win an election. So if the factor in that is about nationalism, it's about patriotism, it's about stability, it's about building the fundamental structures of the country to keep it tight. Look at of recent what happened when Obama was in power. A policeman, a very low-ranking policeman, something happened between him and the president. Yeah. And the president apologized to him and invited him to the White House for a beer a glass or something to share with him. That is a leadership example, and that is what we are talking about. Nobody is above the law. Nobody is indispensable in a civilized society. Nobody is indispensable.
All right. It's News Up Extra. More to come with the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, Mr. Shehu Gabam, after this short break.